Peter Ticktin, Jack Seraphin, Donald Trump. All three wear the uniform in these yellowing photos. They knew each other at the military academy in New York, the school for children from good families where their parents had sent them.
I keep this here on the lock and key, okay? It's precious to me, and I'd hate to see it disappear, and you never know. Somebody may see value in it. But do you remember the shrapnel?
I do.
Well, I've got this from 1964, our year of graduation.
Everybody asks me about Donald's hair, but we really had
all had hair.
Close cut hair back then.
And he had the same hair problem back then as he does now.
Inside, we discover Donald Trump between 14 and 18 years old. His parents sent him here to channel his energy. It's at the academy that he discovers his talents as a leader. Page after page, we see him as captain of the football team, baseball, basketball. He's also the highest ranked in his company.
This is an overview of our company. And Donald was a supply sergeant. You can see him over here on the right. Donald's right over here. And he was nice enough to autograph this for me some time ago. My nickname was Finn. The best of luck next year and all of the following years. I hope to see you next year, Don Trump, class of 1964.
You know, everybody liked him. I mean, we lived with each other day after day after day. So you get to know people when you're living with them, especially in such tight quarters.
Yeah, do you remember that first day? Maybe.
Oh, I'll never forget it.
It's a place where you learn to survive. You learn to fight to survive.
One of the things we had to memorize was we had to know our serial number of our weapon. And I still know it to this day. It was 1558-36-1. And he was the one that made me memorize it. And just one of the things that stick with you.
So how did he do to help you?
He just drilled it into my head that I had to know it, and I saw the light and I memorized it, as I did with all the military protocol that we were supposed to learn.
I don't know whether it was destiny but the guy was goal-oriented. He was not there for the purposes of making friends. He wasn't there for the purpose. He had to get marks. I think he needed to please his parents, especially his father. You know, his father was pretty strict. But the fact is, he was on a mission. I think he was on a mission, and when he went to school later, I think he's been on a mission all his life.
After his studies, his mission begins at the side of his father, Fred Trump, a successful property developer. He gives his son a gift of $1 million to set out in business. And Donald Trump is a great businessman. He's going to gamble it all on New York. At the start of the 70s, Manhattan hasn't yet known a property boom. Donald Trump is one of the first to massively invest in it. He buys land at low prices and builds towers. This boy is going to make his daddy proud.
You know, success is something you're born with. It's a question of genetics. I strongly believe that.
One after the other, he unveils his luxury towers. In Manhattan, prices skyrocket, and Trump makes his fortune.
Could one say that he's become the Prince of New York? That's why you're interviewing me, he says. After all, he's Mr. Trump.
Je suis Mr. Trump.
His city became his kingdom. There is no stopping Donald Trump. He rises very high into the New York sky. He's a multi-millionaire before the age of 30 and becomes a reference in the business world. And it's true that his career inspires many businessmen around the country. We're near to Boston in Massachusetts. 200 kilometers north of New York, it's the bastion of the intellectual elite and great American families. Here, one name can be seen all over town, the name of the Bock family. They made their fortune in the automobile industry and decided to use it to support Donald Trump. We have a meeting at the headquarters of the Bock Group. In the hallway, a businessman waits to be seen by the boss.
It'll be a 3-minute decision. That's about what I have with him. It'll be 3 minutes and get enough detail and background, and he'll make his decision just like that. Off you go. On to the next.
The head of the group is Ernie Boch Jr., a hard-nosed businessman and eccentric billionaire. His guitar collection is one of the most impressive in the country, including many from the greats, Deep Purple, Elvis Presley, and even the Rolling Stones. Ernie Boch has two passions, rock and Donald Trump.
It's actually a great painting of Mr. Trump. Love him or hate him, the guy's amazing at business, incredible at business. He's got the business savvy to run a major corporation in the United States is a major corporation. And he has the ability, in my opinion, to negotiate better deals for the country than what we have had. I don't know where I'm going to hang it. A big factor will be if he wins.
In order for his candidate of choice to win, Ernie Boch has opened up his doors. He's one of the great donors to the Republican Party, and this year has decided to help finance Trump's campaign. In his $30 million residence, he's already welcomed a few presidents.
When I bought it, it wasn't in disrepair, but it needed a lot of work. I put many millions of dollars into this house.
In the United States, flaunting your success is not taboo, it's even encouraged.
So, this is the kitchen.
Whatever the owner's tastes.
Do I think that Trump is the candidate of rich people? I think the average American can relate to Mr. Trump because he is the American dream. He made it. I think Mr. Trump represents the American dream for millions of Americans.
To go from dream to reality in a state that votes Democrat, Ernie Boch is going to give a boost to Trump's campaign on the 28th of August.
Wound through New England and made a stop at Ernie Boch Jr.'s mansion in Norwood, Massachusetts tonight. And it was a sought-after ticket to this event, which was equal parts...
That day, Ernie pulled out all the stops, helicopters, television crews, and above all of the Boston Republican elite. He hopes to raise several million to fund the campaign. Supported by these powerful people, Donald Trump's candidacy reaches a new level. The machine is set in motion and will soon be soaring up the ratings.
Okay, folks, how are you? How are you?
Ernie Boch is over the moon.
It reminds me of my wedding. It went so quick and so fast. Were people that called me and said, I have to go to this, please, you have to let me in. And that's how I got to almost 2,000 people.
Hi, everybody.
Walking through the crowd was amazing, and just being around him was incredible. He has what every president has had, this amazing aura, this charismatic quality, this power.
The guests here are worth in total several $1 billion. The amount raised this evening has not been revealed, but Ernie Boch has signed a check for $84,000.
And I think a lot of people that night came not really sure. And a lot of people changed their mind and said to themselves, this guy can win, this guy can be the next president.
New York, 100 days before the voting opens. With more than 30% of the intended votes, Donald Trump is now comfortably at the head of the polls. However, we still haven't managed to get close to the candidate. This is his strategy, to keep his distance from the media. However, that day, a crowd had gathered at the foot of Trump Tower, and this time we thought we couldn't miss him.
Hi, David. How are you? Nice to see you.
But we weren't banking on her. Hope Hicks, 26, Donald Trump's young communication director. She's been blocking us for 3 months.
Today, I'm sorry. I know he's not available today.
Yeah.
No.
Come on, guys. The bike rack. Pass this bike rack.
All the way to the corner.
Okay?
I'm with the United States Secret Service.
Failed again. Despite a dozen official requests, we haven't been able to get access to either the candidate, an official, or the campaign HQ. Donald Trump's relationship with the press is one of force. Donald Trump doesn't like journalists, and the feeling is mutual.
Divert. Stay together, kids.
With him, we don't risk talking politics.
Orderly fashion. Stay together. Hold. Have him hold.
In all the meetings, the security henchmen are the only ones to talk to us. No interview with those running the campaign, so no chance of any annoying questions. To cover a Donald Trump rally, the press has to lay down their weapons. Denied any access to the candidate, confined to their enclosure, the journalists can only attend the show. That day in Sarasota, Florida, Donald Trump goes a step further by encouraging the audience to boo the press.
See the cameras? They're fixated at my face. No, they won't put it in. You know, we have thousands of people outside. Thousands. And by the way, and I told you this before, the press will not report it. They will not report it. They won't report it. They never do. They never say, they never talk about the real spirit in rooms. Unless they're reporting on some loser that has no spirit, they build them up. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing.
From that day on, Donald Trump takes this line at each rally. He's a candidate persecuted by the press. However, Donald, as he likes to be called, hasn't always shied away from the media. In the 90s, he reached the peak of his fame. Being in the news, making his name a brand, became his speciality. He rubbed shoulders with stars Michael Jackson, Don King, the Kardashians, or even the basketball star Dennis Rodman. He opens his New York apartment to photographers. He doesn't hesitate to show off his conquests, and his 3 marriages take place in front of camera crews. Above all, he wants to be known, recognized, and admired. Staging has become his way of life. That's how he sees and imagines himself. Donald Trump, the invincible, mesmerizing warrior. Randall Pinkett has been one of the billionaire's admirers for a long time. For a year, he even led one of the subsidiaries of the Trump Group. Today, he's at the head of his own finance business, a business that took off thanks to the experience he gained from Donald Trump. It's 9 a.m. and Randall is getting ready to face the Manhattan traffic.
Donald is a master public relations expert. He's a marketing guru. He knows how to brand himself. He knows how to present himself. He knows how to tell his story. That first experience was a bit intimidating. I had obviously never met him before, but only heard of him. He's a larger-than-life personality.
I'm Donald Trump. From this desk, I built over 100 companies, and finding qualified people to run them isn't easy.
It's by taking part in The Apprentice that Randall met his mentor. Between 2004 and 2015, Donald Trump produced and hosted this television game show watched by 50 million Americans. In 2005, Randall, as one of the 18 candidates trying to land a job in one of his businesses, rubbed shoulders with the billionaire.
I'll tell you a story about Donald. I came to his office in New York, and Donald had a stack of magazines and newspapers on his desk, and each of them had a Post-it note in it. And I thought maybe somebody has gone through and highlighted world affairs or current events or late-breaking international news. Lo and behold, each of the magazines and newspapers was about him. And the Post-it was on the page about him. And he would grab one, put it on his desk, turn to the page, read about himself, and then go on to the next one. And so when people like I say that he has an ego that could fill the room, that to me was a classic example that his ego could fill the room.
The whole game revolved around Donald Trump. Each week came his moment of glory to eliminate a candidate with the now famous phrase,
"You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired."
You're fired. In 2005, Randall Pinkett was never fired, and after a hard-fought journey, he reached the grand final.
The finale for The Apprentice brings the final two candidates into a live boardroom in New York City for Donald Trump to decide who's going to be named The Apprentice. My finale was at Lincoln Center in Manhattan, and this is the video from the finale.
Randall, you're hired.
At that moment, Randall jumps for joy. A few minutes later, he's quickly disillusioned. Donald Trump asks him to share his prize with the other finalist. Never seen before in the show, Randall has an explanation, and he accuses Donald Trump of being racist.
I also felt insulted, and I felt upset that he pulled that stunt on me, particularly as the only person of color. From the 7 seasons of the show, there were 6 whites and then me. From my standpoint, there was a kind of racial insensitivity at best. Shalom, you good for a meeting?
Yes, sure.
All right, I'll see you in the conference room. Front page New York Times, headline, Trump's remarks divide black celebrities he calls his friends. And I was interviewed for this story. There's a quote from me in here, but the premise of the story, they interviewed Don King, Jesse Jackson, if you're interested, you can go online and read it, as Donald Trump's international profile or notoriety has increased. There has been increased interest in him as the man and him as the potential president of the country.
Is it something that kind of scared you?
Yes.
We were cool, but we're not cool now. After the Muslim comment, I think the man has an issue with race, and it's starting to come to light. There are programs for boys and men of color.
If Randall Pinkett and others arrive at this conclusion, it means that Donald Trump has said something sensational. 4 weeks after the attacks in Paris and a few days after those in San Bernardino in California, he's just set off an earthquake in his campaign.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
54 days from the first vote, and Donald Trump's provocation reaches the next level.
We have no choice. We have no choice.
In the following days, his statement is picked up everywhere and is all everyone is talking about. America asks if he really believes what he said or if it's just a new publicity stunt. Rosine Gaugy can perhaps help us to answer this question. This French-American is close to Donald Trump. In Tennessee, she's in charge of organising his campaign, but today she's in New York.
We're going to Trump Tower, where Donald Trump started his business.
With Rosine, we enter Trump Tower, at the heart of the machine that the billionaire has created. It's here that he lives and from where he directs his campaign. Rosine has a meeting with a man who has no official role in this campaign. He's a shadow advisor to Donald Trump.
How are you?
Guido Lombardi is Italian and also made his fortune in property.
Wait, on the fair. Yeah, I work there. We're doing an interview. Okay, please come in.
Guido Lombardi is a well-connected man and not with just anybody. In the United States, he represents the Northern League, the extreme right-wing Italian party.
Viva Berlusconi!
Amen.
Recently, he also organised part of Marine Le Pen's political trip to New York. Guido is a close friend of Donald Trump. He wants to show us somewhere that no camera has ever been, the headquarters of the campaign. It's 11 a.m. We imagined it to be a buzzing hive, but there's practically nobody here.
Excuse me, you can't film here. You can't.
All right. Anybody else here that we can talk to?
No, everybody's out. I'll be right back. But please don't film.
On va filmer ici?
Non. Ah. On va voir le loquet avant de filmer.
Of course, we decided to carry on filming. This is where his campaign team works?
Exactly.
Who prepares the programme, the strategy?
There is no strategy.
Can you say that there's no strategy?
But there isn't one.
I can't say, but...
What? That provocation is the strategy?
Let's say that for the moment the only strategy is the primaries. I told him Marine Le Pen wants to meet you.
Il m'a répondu.
He replied, how many votes is she going to bring me?
Elle va me porter.
None.
Plus tard.
So you can't get in contact with anybody, but I know that we just can't have you film here. Well, have a great day. Very nice to meet you.
So we leave, surprised to see so few people managing an electoral campaign this important.
There's only 10 people working here, the brains of the campaign?
It's a strange campaign, certainly not a traditional one.
It's not traditional, but Mr. Trump said just 2 days ago at the debate, when I started, it's not that I wasn't taking it seriously, but I didn't think that I'd have the answers to arrive at this point. I just said to myself that I'd say out loud what everyone else is afraid to say. Today, we can see that what starts out as a gaffe, 2 or 3 days later, everyone else is saying. The last thing he said was to ban Muslims from entering the United States. And naturally, everyone said you can't do that. It's discriminating against a religion. And now, 9 out of 12 Republican candidates and even some Democrats say, why not? It's possible.
That evening, Rosine Gorgi meets us on one of the most beautiful avenues of New York, at number 500 Park Avenue. Here, we enter into the networks of another campaign, more underground, the one that usually takes place away from prying eyes. There are only around 100 guests, all very rich and influential people. We don't get their names, but they could become key supporters for Donald Trump. Rosine goes from one to the next to convince them.
What do you think of the presidential candidate? Do you like the way Donald Trump leads his campaign? Ah, not all the time. But you think he's hit on something?
We're going to start in a few minutes. Actually, right now.
It's Guido Lombardi who has organised the screening. In the room is one of his director friends, Martin Moyer. He's one of the founders of the Christian Action Network, an organisation that defends white Christian American values. Tonight he presents his documentary, Europe's Last Stand.
So we ended up visiting nearly a dozen. We can go ahead and begin the film. Thank you very much.
Europe has fallen into the hands of Muslims. It's the final warning for America.
France has about 6.5 million Muslims. Islam has had massive migration.
Such no-go zones are notorious for the riots, mob violence, arsons, murders, illegal drugs, gang rapes.
So the police in France, I'm talking now, they don't go in the ghettos, in the Muslim ghettos. And over there, for all practical purposes, they have Sharia law already. They rule. Whatever they say, it's law, and nobody can go in.
A Europe that has fallen into the hands of Muslims is the apocalyptic vision that this film puts forward. It uses anti-Muslim feelings that are now part of Donald Trump's campaign. America has been warned. Unless they elect a strong leader, they'll be next on the list.
Whether they like it or not, the Sharia will come to the UK.
Any questions that you might have? Yes, sir.
The fact that they're inviting in millions of extra Muslims means that they're still asleep.
I don't see a way where Europe can survive this, simply because they do not have the tools that we have in America to survive this aggressive attack in their country.
That culture of fear is actually growing here in America as well. And this is very, very sad, very disconcerting. And unfortunately, the only way you're going to change it is by having the guts to stand up for what you believe and not be blackmailed.
The thing about Trump on this is he's the only person who has the courage to say that there's a problem. People are being shot in San Bernardino, they're being shot in Paris, they're being heads cut off in the Middle East. There's a problem. You have to just admit the fact there's a problem, and then you have to come up with a solution. But until you admit there's a problem, it's politically incorrect to do that. And that's what he's saying. I'm just using common sense. We have a problem.
So we have to have something, and I think Donald Trump's moratorium is a good idea until we can vet those that are coming in. But until Muslims can be properly vetted and we understand what we're dealing with, he proposed that it be banned. And I think that that is a worthwhile proposal to put forth. Thank you again for coming. I really appreciate it.
Start taking action. Do anything.
After this evening in New York, the film is going to play all over America.
Il me fait penser à Jean-Marie Le Pen. Oui, Jean-Marie Le Pen et...
Jean-Marie Le Pen and Donald Trump have the same way of expressing themselves. The thing they also have in common is that the media have always taken them apart. That's exactly what's happening with Donald Trump. The media have tried to completely rip him apart. The difference is that when Jean-Marie Le Pen was attacked, he was brought down. The more Donald Trump is attacked, the higher he goes.
At one point, Atlantic City was thriving. Today, it's like a ghost town, and some media accuse Trump of ruining the city. Atlantic City, a seaside resort of 40,000 inhabitants, used to be the city of casinos. Trump had sworn to make it the Las Vegas of the East Coast, but most of the casinos have since closed down.
Caesars. This company's in bankruptcy too.
Marvin Roffman was one of the first to lash out at the billionaire. In the 90s, he wrote for the Wall Street Journal, the most prestigious economic daily newspaper in America.
Okay, it's here. Of course, they took the sign down.
Trump Plaza closed its doors a few months ago, and only a few vestiges remain of Atlantic City's former glory. Marvin Roffman had condemned the irresponsible investments of Donald Trump.
It's a very eerie feeling. It almost reminds me of the Titanic.
Of course, it's locked.
That's why he wants his name removed. He doesn't want to be associated in any way with an unsuccessful operation, and that's anathema to him.
What Donald Trump wants us to remember is that he got close to the summits. At the start of the 80s, the billionaire had a new passion.
For Donald Trump, the new El Dorado can be found in casinos.
In 1978, he opened Trump Plaza. 2 more casinos followed, Trump Marina, and finally in 1990, the jewel in what should have been his casino empire, the Trump Taj Mahal. It's the biggest and most expensive casino in the world. Nothing is too beautiful for Donald Trump. He thinks he's irresistible. The fall was dizzying. In Atlantic City, the mirage vanished. The plaza went bankrupt, the Trump Marina was resold, and the Trump Taj Mahal survived. Barely. At the time, Marvin Rothman had predicted this disaster.
Well, there's nobody here. Oh, it's terrible. They're losing a lot of money. This is a sign of a disaster where they have 1-cent slot machines.
The Trump Taj Mahal is on the verge of bankruptcy, losing $10 million a month, according to Marvin Rothman. The last time that he investigated this was 25 years ago. He was driven out by force.
A month before the property was to open, I did an interview with the Wall Street Journal on what I thought of the prospects of this particular casino. And I was very negative. This casino would have to win somewhere between $1.1 million and $1.3 million a day just to break even. Well, no casino in the world has ever done that. And so what I said was I had serious reservations about the financial success of this property. And Donald Trump did not like that. I mean, he was very, very upset with my comments. And he sent a fax transmission to my boss demanding that they dismiss me immediately.
We got hold of this letter, signed Donald Trump. For Mr. Rothman to make these statements with such definity is an outrage. I'm now planning to institute a major lawsuit against your firm unless Mr. Rothman makes a major public apology or is dismissed. Marvin Rothman was dismissed 3 days later, on the 23rd of March, 1990.
And that is exactly what happened. The bonds did not pay the first interest payment, which was in October of 1990. They did not pay it. And the bonds, which, when this article got published in the Wall Street Journal, were selling at $1,000 a bond. And by October of 1990, they had fallen down close to 20 cents on the dollar. That meant that there was almost an 80% wipeout. 8,000 people lost their jobs in Atlantic City.
The businessman is not infallible. Hotels with nearly 1,000 rooms today lie empty. Donald Trump's gamble was a disaster. Dozens of suppliers have never been paid. Hundreds of subcontractors and craftsmen have been ruined. Trump's megalomania brought down the entire city. We found many of these former employees here, just opposite the Trump Taj Mahal.
And I try to get a count of how many people I have. These are the people now waiting to come in.
They now head towards the soup kitchen.
Well, you're not the interview. My homie.
I get an interview too, because
all right,
you serve some best food.
And
you serve
this
the
young
best
man,
food right here.
he's willing to talk because he lost his job and because of the casinos closing, right?
That is
You're gonna refurbish an apartment or a house. You're gonna paint it. You're gonna make sure the plumbing is done. You're gonna make sure, you know what I mean, the rugs is clean for the next person that moves into that place. And in a sense, oh, I do an excellent job. Once the casinos close down, we won't have nothing here. You know what I mean? It's hard enough finding a job. I'm just trying to survive like everybody else that you see in this slide is trying to survive and live day by day.
In this former church, 600 people are fed every lunchtime from Monday to Friday. Today, Atlantic City is the city with the second highest unemployment rate in the United States. It's about to go into voluntary liquidation and has just been placed under the guardianship of the state. Bill Southray has been a social worker for 35 years and is head of this association. He saw Donald Trump set up in Atlantic City and was also there to see the city go bankrupt.
I remember I met him one time. What industry are you in? I said, I'm in the same industry as you, hospitality. He like, oh, really? I said, you got this new tower here. I don't think you're going to get more than 60% full, but I run 120%. He goes, really? I do about 600-700 meals a day, and I give it away for free. He goes, what do you do? I said, I run the rescue mission. He kind of jumped away from me and said, that's good. Talk to the mayor over here. Donald Trump, when he was here in the city, offered a lot of hope, but he took the hope away. My impression of him is, don't bother me with the problems, just give me all the gold.
Donald Trump has made a lot of money in Las Vegas, Nevada. Last year, gaming brought him over $6.5 billion. At the end of the Strip, the most prestigious avenues of casinos in the world, we find Trump Tower, a luxury hotel, 200 meters high, 64 floors. At the top are 5 letters spelling out the billionaire's name, and at the bottom are the workers who keep the business running. A small revolution is underway here, the revolution of the chambermaids. For years, Trump has prevented them from forming a union, but they've declared war on their powerful boss.
When I started, I went to the interview and I was happy. I told myself, wow, I work for Donald Trump. And then I started to feel the pressure and realize that they gave me too many rooms to clean and too many floors. If you don't do the work and you don't finish on time, you get warnings.
The Strip have a lot of hotel and casinos with union, and they pay more, and they have like a $17, we have per hour $14.
Everywhere I've worked, there was a union. And so for me, it was really strange, this inequality and lack of respect from our bosses. That's why we need a union.
For a year, they have battled with the 500 employees of Trump Tower. Tonight, they have a meeting with history at the culinary headquarters, Las Vegas's historical union that represents 57,000 hotel and casino workers. Trump Tower is the last of the large hotels that refuses to create a union.
You won't cry anymore, Maria.
Tonight marks a great victory. 80% of the employees, the majority of whom are Latino, have just voted to create a union in Trump Tower.
They be sacrificed. They work with their co-workers inside. They show power. When people get united, they don't have no fears anymore.
They realise that gaining this victory, despite the threats and pressure from management, is symbolic. In the middle of an electoral campaign, there are some people who try to make it political. The Secretary of Labour arrives in person from Washington to congratulate them.
Good evening.
In the White House, Thomas Perez is part of Barack Obama's government. Tonight, he's come to ensure the next Democrat president by endorsing Hillary Clinton.
This presidential election is about workers. Elections matter. And that is why I'm so passionate about making sure the progress we've made under this president will continue under President Clinton. And you know what? And if you help us elect responsible people, then we can resolve all of those issues. You've got plenty of hotels in this town that treat their workers fairly, they get a decent return for their investors, and you have a middle-class job. Didn't he tell us he's the richest man in America?
Yes,
yeah. Well, open up your goddamn pockets and
These workers' victory is a sign to the rest of the world that Donald Trump can be beaten.
Take care. Thank you.
You think they teach a lesson to Donald Trump?
Well, Donald Trump is going to have to pay his workers fairly at this hotel because they're organizing a union. Thank you. Okay. Bye. Best of luck.
Despite his critics, 30 days from the first vote, Trump is forging ahead with his competition, falling far behind. In Memphis, Rosine Gorgi, the French-American, feels that victory is in reach.
I looked at the last CNN poll.
I talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people who I talked to are very favorable, and if we held the election tomorrow, they all said that they would vote for Donald Trump.
Yes. I think we can prepare the champagne right now.
That sounds wonderful.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Rosine is in charge of organising the campaign in Tennessee. This morning, the latest poll results are in, and they are excellent.
He's winning by 27 points.
Do you think he's unstoppable?
It's impossible to stop him.
Why?
Too many people are following him. He's no longer just representing the Republican Party. It's about the people who are lost in this country, who don't know where to turn. Listen.
Become president, we're all going to be saying Merry Christmas again. That I can tell you.
You hear that? We bring back the word Merry Christmas. That's the defense of Christians against Muslim attacks. And the Americans like that.
This morning, Rosine Gorgi has an important meeting. Her mission is to gather as much support as possible for the arrival of Donald Trump in Tennessee.
We mustn't be late.
Rosine has led a tireless campaign. Memphis, Tennessee, population 600,000, a city greatly affected by the financial crisis. 65% African Americans, one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. The inhabitants have always voted Democrat.
You see here, it's the soup kitchen. You see the homeless. There's one. They wait for their meals. These are all people who have nothing.
Rosine is sure that Donald Trump is the candidate who can bring the city back to the Republicans. In Memphis, there are more and more members of the Republican Party rallying for the billionaire. Rosine has a meeting in the county headquarters. She wants to meet with a man who could easily help to organize Trump's arrival in Memphis.
Come on in. How you doing?
Good, and
hey,
you?
Rosie?
His name is Terry Rowland, the county commissioner. He's also an old friend of Rosine.
So what are you going to do for our friend Donald?
Well, first of all,
It's good timing. Terry Rowland has just announced that he will be supporting Donald Trump for the upcoming election.
It's out of control. The reason why that I can identify with Donald Trump is this is the way I've been the whole time.
Yes.
You know?
They have that stuff in common. Both of them speak their mind and tell the people the truth.
This is something which is not common in politics?
It's not common in politics because they always try to go around and please everybody.
I tell you, the political correctness is what's got us in this shape now. You know, you can't call a criminal anymore. No. You can't. It's going to take somebody strong like Donald Trump to help get all this straightened out. This country is starving for leadership. And somebody that's going to stand and say what they mean and do what they say.
While waiting for a rally in Memphis, Donald Trump stops in South Carolina. Population 22,000 in winter, 100,000 in summer. Myrtle Beach is a classic beach resort for the American middle class. It's here that Donald Trump has rallied his troops. Normal Americans who are attending his rallies in increasing numbers. Donald Trump knows how to talk to them. He's found his style, his voice. His audience are beside themselves and he's overjoyed.
I love you too.
Rosine Gorgie has travelled over from Memphis. Like her, nobody here has any doubts about his winning.
Every speech I've made in the last 2 or 3 months has been on live television, right? The other day I did Face the Nation. They had the highest rating in 15, 16 years since the fall of the World Trade Center. Think of it. But when you have that power, you don't have to advertise. If you look at it, I just feel guilty. I feel so guilty. Because I haven't spent anything, and all these guys have all spent tremendous amounts of money. Seriously. I spent nothing, and I'm up here. Other guys spent tremendous amounts of money, and they're down in the toilet, right? Wouldn't it be nice if you could take my campaign theory? We spend the least, and we have the best. We spend the least, and we have the best. We can make America greater than ever before. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Today, part of America is well and truly on the side of Donald Trump. He's convinced that he has a date with history that will make him the 45th President of the United States.
We're going to win, Donald.
For 200 days, we followed him. 200 days of a campaign that has been carried out like a media spectacle. Like everywhere, he always avoids answering any questions. Because with Donald Trump, it's not the content that matters, it's just the packaging.